Hello, my friends. I am Leighellen, and this is Mom Leighlen's Book Nook. And I think it's Friday, which is awesome. I just got back from a trip to Virginia. I got to go to see my son who lives back there, help set him up in his new apartment. I got to go to a wedding, which was awesome. His best friend just got married to the sweetest gal ever that we love and adore. And so I got to go to that wedding, which was wonderful, especially after a year of not having weddings. So that was super fun. And what else? I got to see my uncle, which was fun. He lives back there. He's my godfather. And so after a year of not visiting people, it was great to like be around people and see so many people. So it is June somehow already. I don't even know how that's possible. But I just posted on my Instagram account, Momma Leighlen's Book Nook, my May wrap up. And so as I was writing a blog post about some of my favorite books, I thought, oh, I really don't remember in the busyness of this month the last time that I did a BookTube video. So I thought it would be a great time to just hop in here and go live and share not all of the books because I'm so sorry, you guys. I read 24 books. It was a little nutty. I honestly, okay, let me back up and just say I thought this month was going to be total poop for reading because I had my son's graduation, his 18th birthday, a wedding, a trip back east. I just thought it was going to be like too crazy, too busy. But what ended up happening was, I don't know if it was like the stress of everything, and then like reading is my way to relax. I don't watch TV. I don't really with COVID, everything's closed. I don't go to the movies. We aren't going out. So I read a lot. And then I had the trip back east. So I listened to some audiobooks, which Libro FM, I love you. Thank you for sending me books. And then I don't know, when you go on trips, you just read. So I read a lot. So I'm not going to go over every single book because that would bore you to tears, but I do want to talk about some of the books that were my favorites maybe, and that are kind of from all over the genre spectrum so that you get just some good ideas for summer reading, because reading, a lot of people, even that don't read a ton like I do, find time to read in the summer. Maybe you're sitting on the beach. Maybe it's just, nicer weather. Maybe it's longer days. So you've got more time to read. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you some of these great books that I read. So let's just dive in. The beauty of live is I don't have to edit. So normally there'd be like splice and then it would transition, but no splicing, no transitioning, just me rambling about books. So thanks for joining me. All right. So first up, let me start with maybe books that were my book club picks. So every month I pick books to read, and you can join me either whether you're a booktuber or bookstagrammer or a blogger. It doesn't matter. I host everything over on Discord, so there's one united place that we can chat about books. I usually pick historical fiction books, and then I pick a book from Book of the Month. So this was one of my historical fiction books. It's called Sunflower Sisters, and what's cool about this one was that it is multi-point of view, which I always love about historical fiction. So there's 3 points of view. This is set in Civil War era, which is also fun because a lot of historical fiction is set in World War II. So it was nice to have just a fresh perspective. And then I love this author, Martha Hall Kelly, and she's actually agreed to chat with us. So we will get to talk with her about this book soon. And she also wrote Lilac Girls and Lost Roses. So this is like a continuation of that series. It's not even a series of her other books. It's the same DNA of women, but this is like the prequel because it's obviously Civil War. So Lilac Girls and Lilac Girls and Lost Roses was later on. So this one we loved. We really enjoyed it. It's got a great mix of real history with the Weasley sisters, and then just fictional characters. So there's a woman who there's a gal who's a slave, then there's a nurse, and then there is a slave owner. Those are kind of a plantation owner. Those are kind of the main characters, and then you find out how they're all interconnected and their stories and their strengths. So really like this one. Good history. It seems long. A lot of historical fiction, especially over the pandemic, was 600 pages, which was nuts. This one was like 500, but to be honest, it didn't read like a 500-page book. It read really quickly. It was very easy to read. This author's writing is very character driven, emotionally driven. So you can connect with them very easily and you care about what they're doing. So this one I highly recommend. Totally switching gears. Another book that was fun, that was well documented, well read, I don't know, chatted up a lot, is Emily Henry's latest book, People We Meet on Vacation. This was super cute, super fun, really easy, really short read. It's about friends to lovers trope. It's a rom-com. So this girl is a travel blogger and her best friend is this guy that takes the trips with her every year, but they date other people and talk about their dates and yada yada. They end up together and it's just a really cute travel book, fun rom-com, easy to read. Another book I really enjoyed this month was Preachers and Sneakers. So the funny background about this book is I attend Red Rocks Church here in Colorado, and our pastor loves his shoe game, loves his fancy shoes. And this guy that wrote this book, he was actually known like more for his Instagram account. So he had this Instagram where he features pastors across the country, really across the globe, because some of them are like the Australian leaders, and that wear, their $3,000 Gucci belts or their $1,000 shoes. And so he just started calling them out. And it was kind of funny because definitely people got pissed off. But I just like the conversation that it created for like, hey, Jesus says to like, get rid of all your possessions and follow him. And then now you've got pastors that are like, look at me and my pretty shoes and my expensive belt. So he's not like a professional, he's a speaker, I guess. I don't know. He's not a pastor. But his wife works for a church. And so he just sort of noticed this trend in modern Western Christianity of having, public speakers and really beautiful people lead campuses of churches and wearing a lot of expensive stuff. And so he doesn't really answer the questions in this. He just sort of poses the questions like, is that cool? Is that okay? What's up with our pop culture kind of leading the way in Christianity? And what does that mean for our churches? And what does it mean? Does it dilute the message? Does it help the message? When you have people like Kanye West and Justin Bieber leading the way, like, is that good? Is that bad? Is any exposure good exposure? So I found this book to be really interesting. I also really liked throughout the book, he has like discussion questions at the end. So I would read and, my husband would be next to me watching like Sports Center and I'd just be like, so what do you think of this? And I'd ask him the question and then it would start a conversation. So I think this would be cool to do. Like if you have a Bible study, like I think this would be just a totally different take on a Bible study to do this. Or if you're not even a Christian, like I just think it's cool to read, to like ask these questions of like, what effect does this have on Christianity? So very short, very interesting, and just thoughtful book. I enjoyed the discussions of this one. So that's Preachers and Sneakers. What else do I want to share with you? Another book, I talked about this in another BookTube. So I won't babble on too long about this one, but this is a Proper Scoundrel. It's by Esther Hatch. She's awesome. She writes a lot of Regency romance, historical romance, even kind of like a new genre of like Victorian kind of historical romance, but very Jane Austen-y. They're short, they're fun. Her female characters are always like witty and kind of like not conforming to the day. And they're always a little bolder, maybe a little more, just unique. One of them like shoots guns in one of her books. And in this one, the gal owns a railroad, which is really unique for this time period. And this was just a really fun book because she owns this railroad. It's kind of like a reverse Pretty Woman twist where she's trying to get all these guys off her back. And so she hires this baron to like pretend to woo her so that people leave her alone and she just wants to go to work. Like stop with the I need to be married garbage. So and of course they fell in love. So this was a really fun proper romance, and just I loved the tension, I loved the storyline, and I loved the leads in this one. So that was great. Another, I read a lot. Okay, so normally I tend to read historical fiction and, kind of deeper literary fiction and YA. I always read YA to throw it in there. But this month I read a lot of romance. So you're going to see a lot of rom-coms. I don't know what was up with that. All I can think of is maybe I was just in the mood for something lighter. Maybe it's because it's like almost summer and the sun was out. I don't know. I don't have an excuse. I don't need an excuse to read, by the way. I can read whatever the heck I want to read. But it is kind of funny because I am looking at the stack trying to show you diversity, and really it's a lot of fluffy rom-coms, but that's kind of what I read. Okay, so here's a book. I didn't love this one, but I'm going to share it with you anyways. This is Things We Lost to the Water. This was another Momma Leighellen's book club pick. And I read it because I really do enjoy stories of immigration. I love stories of other cultures. And this has all of that. This is a family from Vietnam that leaves and comes to America, and they settle in New Orleans. But there was plenty I didn't like about it either. But I'm just going to share it because it might just be me. I tend to love historical fiction. Historical fiction tends to get deeper into character development, and this didn't. This was a faster read, and so I actually wanted more. But some people that don't like big, heavy books would probably really enjoy just this kind of snapshot of a life, synopsis of a life, because in this short novel, it is literally, how many pages is this? It's like 200 pages, 287-ish. It covers 26 years in this family's life, which is a lot of years. So in the beginning, it starts off like slower and is more thoughtful and detailed. And then as it goes on, it like skips parts to try to like catch you up and get to the end, but it felt a little hurried to me. There were times when like it would be like 5 years later and then you'd like catch up. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, what happened? What happened to that neighbor? Like, because it would introduce characters that you kind of like really like or just are interesting. And then they would just disappear and never reappear, which I guess thinking about it, that is what happens in life. Like I don't update you on my neighbors from Seattle anymore because I don't live next to them anymore, but they were a big part of our life when we lived there, but now they're not. So maybe it is more true to life. But for me, I wanted like, what happened to that friend of yours? What happened to that neighbor? What happened? And it just kind of drops it. Also, the title, Things We Lost to the Water, you are going across the ocean, you are coming here, then there's the hurricane. I thought the hurricane was going to play more into this story, and really it's introduced really quickly, very intensely at the end, and then it's gone. It also kind of, I don't want to give away the ending, it just ends. It kind of abruptly ends. Not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but not overly resolved either. So those are my issues with this book. However, even with all of that said, even though I think I only gave it 3 stars, I do recommend it because it was a very different look at the immigrant experience than I have read before. And I really appreciated some of the contrast and just some of the reality. Like at one point, she's here and she has 2 children under 2, and she doesn't speak the language and she's trying to get a job. And just that scene where she's like walking through the neighborhood and like, the contrast of the fields and the flowers of Vietnam and the quiet with like the concrete and the noise of New Orleans was really eye-opening, I think. So, go into this just knowing it is his, I think it's his debut novel. Is it? I feel like it is. I could be lying. So it could just be also first-time author still trying to weed out stuff, but I'll let you decide if you want to read this one. But that was, I'm sharing. I was going to tell you all the books that I loved, and now I'm like, meh, but you really could read this. I gave it 3 stars, so it wasn't awful. I wanted more. I guess that's good when you want more. It wasn't like, oh, this book stunk. It was like, no, you sucked me in, and I cared about the characters, and then it just kind of over, and I wanted more. What else can I share with you? Mary Jane. This was a really unique book. Okay, Mary Jane. I think it might be listed as YA. It's set in the 60s, and it was totally a different kind of a book. I really liked it. So you don't even have to read this as YA. You just read, but it doesn't really fit historical fiction. I don't know what it's listed as. It might be listed as historical fiction. I don't know. So it's set in the 60s. It's like a coming of age story that's about this young girl who comes from a very conservative Christian family. A lot of rules, a lot of structure. And then her mom sets her up with, sorry, I'm like dying of thirst from talking already for 20 minutes. She sets her up with this nanny gig, but the family is like a little kooky. They're like a little hippy dippy trippy. The dad's a shrink. I don't really know if you ever find out what the mom does, but she nannies for this little girl while the dad is like locked in his office, and their lifestyle is totally different. That at their house, there isn't rules and there isn't structure. And his client is a like rock star and hi cat and a famous actress. And so this young girl, how old is she in this book? I feel like maybe she's like 14. I feel like she was young. Yeah, 14. 14-year-old Mary Jane. She's exposed to stuff she would never be exposed to at home. And it's like sounds like super cool in the beginning, but then obviously, I think what's cool about it is it's a coming of age where she contrasts, the two families and two lifestyles, and she really has to figure out what that means for her and what she's about and what she cares about and how, where she's going to find a balance in between. Because it is eye-opening for her to see this other family that's, totally different than her own. And while that can be good, there also is, purpose and intention and structure, and that can be good too. So I thought it was very well done, all set to the backdrop of like 60s kind of free love music. Music is kind of the heartbeat of this because the man who's going to therapy is a musician. And so I loved that. I loved the music and the singing in this. Some of the scenes where they're like driving in the car and like singing old hymnals is awesome. And it's still YA. So it is appropriate for a younger, high school audience, I would say maybe. But really unique concept, really fun book, and it's not a million pages, and I really liked the concept. So that is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. My piles are like attacking me. Are there any more in this one? Okay, let me share one more on this stack. Another book I thought was super cute was this one, Twice Shy. This is another rom-com, folks. I was not kidding when I said I was in the mood for rom-coms. This one I liked because they were both kind of quirky and awkward instead of a lot of times, rom-coms are like all perfect, beautiful people. And so I liked that they weren't. And so in this one, if I remember correctly, she inherits like her aunt's house. It's like I don't know if it's an estate, it's a hotel, it's some kind of like big place, but it's like totally run down by the time she gets it. And she hasn't been there in like 20 years. So she's surprised when her aunt leaves it to her. And she goes there with plans to remodel it and have it be like her new job because she hates her job, only to find out, oh, her aunt didn't just leave it to her. She also left it to like the gardener. So of course he doesn't have to be like a 65-year-old man gardener. He's like a young, adorable boy, but he's also kind of quirky and quiet. So he wants to make the place like a nature preserve. She wants to make the place a hotel. So they have totally different ideas on where they want to go with this. So it's technically, I feel like it's enemies to lovers, but the whole time I never really felt like they were enemies. I felt like they were just friends who like maybe had a different understanding of things. And they end up becoming lovers. Friends to lovers? I don't know. Whatever. It was adorable and short and fun, and I enjoyed it. Really liked this one. So Twice Shy, Sarah Hogel. That was a win. That was a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. What was my other? Oh, I can't show you because I gave it to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law came to visit for graduation, and it's so fun when they come because I love to read and I can't really talk about anything else. I'm super awkward. So when they come, I'm like, can we talk about books? So I gave my father-in-law a bunch of books, and I always try to come up with something that I feel like my mother-in-law would like, but I don't really maybe like the same books. I'm not sure. But I do know she reads for book club. And so I gave her the book. So I can't show it to you, but it was my other book club pick. It was, I love that I'm like the one with the blue star, Pam Jenoff. I interviewed her. Oh, did I ever upload that? I might not have. Let me go upload that after that too. So then you can watch that interview. That was a fantastic book. I gave that one 5 stars. Yes, it's World War II, but it was a totally unique take. It's about this Jewish girl in Poland who lived in a sewer. I did not know that was a thing. And apparently that was a thing. There was a certain amount of people that hid in sewers to get away from Nazi occupation and rule. And it's terrifying. And so what I thought was really unique was the entire book like takes place in this like dark, it's basically a dark underground cell essentially. And so to have the power, the writing skills to make that sound interesting and unique made the book even more interesting and unique, I felt like, because it was so incredible that you could have that be the entire backdrop and yet still pull us in, still make it interesting, still be a unique perspective. So in that book, she has this girl look through like the grate and see another girl buying flowers, and that was kind of the basis of the book. And the girl that's on the outside starts to help them and bring them food and begins to try to help them plan some sort of an escape or way to thrive. So very well done, very heartbreaking. You're gonna cry, like get your hankies ready. But you know, another thoughtful take, especially like during the pandemic, of like what it means to truly live, what friendship means to you, what family means to you. It was poignant and thoughtful, and then also just brought a totally different take on history that I had not heard of. So really enjoyed that novel. I'd show you, but my mother-in-law has it. Pretend it's right here. What else did I read? This one, oh, let me show you. This was actually one of my very favorites. I loved this book so much. I may have already talked about this, but again, I don't remember what I did yesterday, so I don't remember what I've talked about on here already. Hannah Khan Carries On. This is fantastic. So I love retellings. I have a whole wall of like Jane Austen retellings, and this author wrote a Jane Austen retelling, which I loved. What was the name of that one? Sorry. It was called Aisha at Last. So this one is her newest book, and it's another retelling. So it's a retake on You've Got Mail. So super fun, modern take on that. So back then it was emails, and this it's a podcast. In the other one, you've got Dueling, like bookstores? Is that what it was? I can't remember all these years later. It's Dueling Restaurants. So really fun. She's got this kind of old school restaurant her parents have owned forever, her whole life. And like literally like across the street, down the street comes this new modern fancy take on those recipes. And so she's disgruntled, but of course it's a boy that owns it, and he's cute and adorable. So they have another enemies to lovers trope, which I love. So super fun. But the twist is that this book also really captures the essence of microaggressions, racism, again, another like immigrant experience story, which I'm always drawn to. So, but while still being a rom-com, which I think, again, just explains what an incredible writer she is, that she can not make light, because it doesn't make light, but bring to light these like heavier, deeper issues, but done in a way that like people will easily read and relate to, and then be like, oh, I've never really thought about that. Or you're right. Like my boss has made comments like that. Or, oh, you're right. Like I have thought that way. Or so I just thought it was really well done. And, you know, it's just a really great fresh take. And I love her writing. She's a little sassy, which I love. I love her snarky kind of writing. I love her characters are always a little smarty pants. That's not even a word. So I highly recommend this one. It is long, but it doesn't feel long at all. It's 400 pages, but honestly, don't be afraid by the size. It read really fast. The story sucks you in. Her family, you will like love her family. It was great to see a Muslim father figure that you know, loves his daughter and you know, empowers her and encourages her. And so we got to chat with the author, and that's one of the things she said, like she's tired of these same kind of depictions of her culture and her family in books and movies, and she wanted to show something different, because she's like, that's not how I was raised at all. And so it was really, I think, just really great. I loved her family. I loved all the women in her family and the drama in her family. It's really fun. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend. This is one of my favorite books of the month. So pick that one up. It's fantastic. Super funny, super fun. So those were my favorites. I read Some other flops for me. This was kind of a flop for me. This one, everyone was talking about this. I got this in my book box. And I really wanted to love it because there's definitely people that have read this that said I would love it. And I didn't love it. It was a little too weird for me. I tend to like quirky and fun, but this kind of had like a Weekend at Bernie's vibe where there's this like dead body that's in this refrigerator the whole time. And so I couldn't quite get past that was supposed to be funny. Like I was like, that's awful. So the concept is that's what happens. She goes on this like date and tases this guy and kills him and shoves him in a fridge and ends up it's the fridge that they use when she works for her aunts and they own a like wedding planning company. So like one of them's makes the cake and one of them does the planning and one of them does the flowers. And so they go to this wedding and when they opened like the cake freezer, like the dead body's in there. So, and then it's all about like trying to hide the body and then there's a little love story involved. So the love story is cute. It's a cute book. It's not bad. I gave it 3 stars. It just wasn't like awesome. And it's really over the top. Like you have to be okay with that kind of Weekend at Bernie's, like slapsticky over the top humor. So just know that going in. Inspirational book. If you want something inspirational, this one, Transformed, was fabulous. This is about this man who he actually was like a prince in Africa or something. Like his dad was like the head chieftain in town. But then when he died, his mom lost everything and they moved to America. And so he was actually raised in like the slums of Brooklyn. And then he goes on to become a Navy SEAL, which is insane. So this was kind of a cool, if you like anything about the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines kind of thing, if you like what makes a man in that type of environment, you will really enjoy this because he goes into detail about like his boot camp and training. And it's insane. Some of the stuff they have to do. It's fascinating. And just what it takes to be a Navy SEAL. I knew that they were amazing, but this also makes it like, wow, I can't even imagine. So he goes on to do that. And then that's not it. Then he goes on to be in movies and now he's writing books. So it's about his kind of transformation of finding out who he is and what he's about, making better choices and becoming a good, decent human being. So inspirational, interesting story. What else? Oh, and then is that everything? There's like stacks of books. I think that's everything. This one was super fun. Where the Rhythm Takes You. I really enjoyed this. This was YA. This made me want to go on a trip because this place that it takes place in, Tobago, is fabulous. It's filled with like, it's about this young girl who's like childhood sweetheart comes back to her island, only now he's like a famous rock star. And so it's like that kind of like sweet romance, but the side stuff that's in this is fabulous. Like the food is like, this book will make you hungry. The food is fantastic in this book. The scenery is insane. They like ride horses on the beach and there's waterfalls and it just sounds fabulous. So romance, scenery, food. That's this one, Where the Rhythm Takes You. I think that's all the ones that I would want to share with you. I'm trying to think of any other ones that stood out. I think, Of Women in Salt was really good, but I think I talked about that in another video. Okay, so those are my picks for May. I think out of all of them, probably this is probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite. Who knew? It's not even historical fiction. I always pick historical fiction as my favorite. This was definitely my favorite book this month. Probably second would be The Woman with the Blue Star. I really enjoyed that. And maybe, and Proper Scoundrel. Loved that too. So those were my May books. Thanks for joining my May books. I hope, I would love to know, tell me what your favorite book in May was, if we had any of the same favorites. June is looking like an epic month. So I'm trying to figure out if I will have a June TBR or not. But I will make a video about what my Momma Leighellen's book club books are because there's 3 and they're totally different. I've got historical fiction and like women's fiction and thriller this month, which is totally not like me. So I hope you'll join me for those and have a great day, folks. It was fun to chat with you about books and I can't wait to talk with you again. Have a great day.